Well, hello there, class, and welcome to the end of week 7. So, are you seeing this guy right here? Where is it? Right here. Just got that guy right there in the background. I don't know if you noticed on Seinfeld. I've been watching a lot of comedians in cars getting coffee lately with Jerry Seinfeld and some of the best comedians in the world. Seinfeld always had Superman somewhere in the scene when they were filming, if they were in the apartment or something like that. So I thought that maybe I would start by having this new tradition with creepy Fang sunglass wearing guy. I'm not sure if it's going to work. Maybe it won't happen again. But for today, he's going to hang out. So I hope that you are not too distracted by that and you can actually hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. So I want to say, first of all, and once again, how impressed I am with your work. So here's the thing. I'm gonna reveal to you a couple of things that have happened in this class. Okay. So first of all, as I mentioned, your work is excellent. You've done just a tremendous job so far, and I hope, this is my hope, this is my prayer, that as you reflect back on your experience, LDRS 520, understanding vocation in a changing world, that you can honestly say that this was perhaps one of the more influential, important, transformational learning opportunities, experiences that I've had, maybe in the program, maybe in education, or maybe just in the last year or so. But I hope that there's going to be an element where you say, man, that was really an important course. And so part of the way that this class has been structured, designed, and then delivered, and perhaps, I'll even offer up that maybe it's a little bit different than how it'll be taught in the future, but you won't know because you're not going to take it again, is that I've been a little hands-off. And what I mean by that is you haven't gotten some of your grades back. Some of your grades you have gotten back. If you look in your grade book, you'll see that you have grades for some of your book responses, and then some others are coming this evening. But here's the thing I want to say. I was actually talking with a faculty colleague yesterday. This is a colleague who's been in higher education for, probably the past, almost 40 years. Quite accomplished, has held some very important positions on some sizable campuses. She's been with us here at APU for a good amount of time. Just one of those, like, you spend time with this person and you just walk away thinking, wow, I just had this download of incredible information that was so helpful, so insightful. You feel encouraged and challenged. And that's this person. And we had this conversation about education. And I alluded to this a little bit, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Education, I think, the way that we do it traditionally is I don't think it does students a whole lot of good. I don't think it does any favors, right? So we have set it up to where, okay, I'm in a class, and I'm not going to badmouth this approach. I just think that there's a better, different way that we can go about this, okay? I'm going to be in this class, and I want to get a good grade, so I'm going to do all that I can to get a good grade. So you notice that there are no rubrics. I don't know about other classes that you've had, but I don't do grading rubrics. I think I've mentioned this before as well. The reason I don't do grading rubrics is because if I give you a rubric, I can almost guarantee that what you're going to do with that rubric is, in relation to the assignment, you're going to write to the rubric. So you can kind of go check, 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 check. I made sure that I did all of the things required of me in the rubric. But one of the things that you'll notice is that the rubric, although it should be very much in line with the assignment, the rubric is a tool by which the assignment is graded. The assignment is actually what the instructor of record is trying to pull out of you in response to whatever it is that you've read, you've discussed, you've explored, and so forth, right? So I fear, and I have a number of colleagues and friends that would say this is their fear as well. If I do rubrics, then students don't actually write to the assignment, they write to the rubric. And then I think you're missing out on actually what's being asked of you to do. Well, how do I know I'm going to get a good grade then if I didn't have a rubric to tell me that I've done everything? Well, I would argue that doesn't really matter. So, did you write to the assignment? Did you speak to the assignment? And more so, did you learn? That's the most important thing to me. Did you learn about what it was that you were supposed to learn about? So I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but in my undergraduate classes, I traditionally offer students an opportunity to create their own assignments. I have a syllabus that's all done, it's thorough, it's concrete, it's thought through. There's all sorts of this has to be done and this is due then and blah, 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 on and on and on, as you would expect a syllabus to include. And then I don't take it and rip it up and throw it. I don't do that, although that would be kind of cool if I did, kind of Robin Williams, Dead Poet Society-ish or esque. I don't do that necessarily, but I do allow them to come up with their own learning opportunities because I want them to take ownership, right? So I say, what's your ideas? So we brainstorm ideas, they come up with ideas, then they as a group, I break them into multiple teams right through the class, then the class has to vote on what they're going to do, and they come up with this final offering for what their assignment should be. And my question always is that going to help you learn the content? Is it going to help you learn? Did you learn more from that, or would you learn more from that than you would have from the original assignment that I included in the syllabus? See, when it comes to education, we think about it because we've been trained to think about it, I think, wrongly. And I think that we've been trained to think about it wrongly because we've been trained to teach it perhaps in a way that's not the most conducive to our overall best practices when it comes to learning. Okay? So, if I have come up through education, and my education system that I've been trained in how to teach and how to share information and so forth has been very kind of lecture, call and response, paper writing, grading, paper writing, grading, paper writing, grading, then of course what I'm going to do when I'm giving assignments is paper writing, grading, lecture, call and response type these ways, because that's what I know. And yet, as I was talking with this colleague of mine, we were talking about how I don't think that's the best way. I think it's a way. I think it works in a lot of respects. But in some classes, and I would argue in this class specifically, face-to-face or online, I think it's different. Because this is a very introspective class. Think about where you started. You started with David Benner, The Gift of Being Yourself. And you wrote about how this was a book that, I've heard many students in the past and current say, I wish I'd known about that book when I was younger, right? When I was in college, I wish I knew that when I was 20 years old, right? So, and now here I am, I'm further along in my career, and I wish that I'd known about it sooner, because now I have to unlearn some things that I learned beforehand. And that's not a bad thing. At least you know about it, right? So I had a late career student last year take the class, read the book, and he said, I've been giving it out. I think I talked about that. I've been giving it out to everybody. Everybody needs to read this book. I wish I had read it myself 15 years ago. And he didn't. And so he felt like he had, in some ways missed out on that experience. But now he got it, and he was so glad he had. So my question for you is this: what have you learned? This is a class on learning about yourself. The assignments that you're doing are about yourself. But in addition to that, there are also things that you can take and turn and then pay forward to work with other people. So how are you doing, like the student I had, taking the content? Maybe it's the Benner text, maybe it's the Keller text, right? Maybe it's any of these other books, the transitions, any of these books that we've read, and maybe you're then saying, okay, now I'm going to take them, turn them, and share them with other people. Or maybe it's the process. Maybe it's this vocational profile plan I'm putting together. Maybe that's the process. I'm going to now share that with other people. Maybe it's the career development project, which actually that career development project should be something that you can take to an organization and say, hey, I think this would benefit the organization. I hope that you would do that, right? That's something that you could do. The reason that I haven't been so forthright and generous in giving all this feedback on papers is because I don't want you to work toward a grade in the assignment. I want you to work toward learning. And if you are actually going at this wanting to glean as much as you possibly can, then that carrot that's dangling in front of you, the grade carrot, if you will, is not going to be the thing that concerns you the most. Now, am I going to give you grades? Absolutely. We have to. That's the world in which we live. But if I were able to say, hey, we've got 8 students in this class. Did each of you learn? If we were in the room together, did each of you learn something new about yourself, about this topic? Did you learn something new even about Luther and the Reformation doctrine of vocation? You did? Great. then we've succeeded. So did you, when you were given the syllabus and you saw that you had this outline and these program learning outcomes, this course learning outcomes, did you accomplish those things? Looking back, have you accomplished the things that you were told in this contract that you were going to accomplish? You did? Well, then you succeeded, right? Did you do everything to the best of your ability? I sure hope so. Right? I hope that in a class, especially one about yourself, digging deep into who you are, how God has wired you, how He's created you, and in the argument that the more you understand self, the better you understand God, and the better you understand God, the more you understand self. If that's the foundational premise of this class, I hope that you have done everything that you could and can to dig deep and to discover more of who you are so you can know more of God, and discover more of who God is so you can know more of you and how He has wired you, what He's created you for. You know, I listened to, I think I mentioned this Andy Crouch talk, his podcast on calling. And he said, I didn't learn my calling until I was 40. And if I've mentioned this, I think it's worth repeating. But his calling now, he would say, is I take complicated things and make them easy to understand in short amount of times for people who don't have time to understand complicated things. So I've been thinking about mine. My calling, I truly believe, is to know as much about as much as I possibly can in order to give that information away to others to make them look good, to make them more successful, to help them get from point A to point C. So if all I did was hold it in and then mic dropped from a know-it-all perspective to make me look good, then it's frivolous and it's worth less, and I'm actually not serving anybody in the way that I believe that I'm called to do. I can carry out that calling anywhere. Andy Crouch can carry out that calling anywhere. So as you talk about calling and vocation, it's this way that we reframe it, we relearn it, we repackage, we re-understand what these things are and what do they mean to us. And if we lost our job tomorrow, would I still be able to live out my vocational calling anywhere in any job that I have? And I hope that if you're not able to say yes, absolutely right now, you're working towards being able to say yes, absolutely at some time down the road in the future. All right. So that's kind of the method behind the madness. I don't want these, again, this carrot hanging in front of us of a grade to be holding us back from really just digging deep. I mean, this is a fast class. You've done a tremendous amount of work. I get it. But it's all intentional. Everything you've watched, everything you've read, everything you've thought about, everything you've discussed, it's all coming together to help you unpack and discover more of who you are and how you've been wired to be and what you've been wired and called to do, right? So there's that. I'm also going to give us some good news here. The term officially ends a week from today, on March 3rd. Okay, I think that's what it is, March 3rd. The first is Wednesday, Thursday is the 2nd, Friday is the 3rd. I don't have to get grades in, okay, hear me, until Friday at midnight on March 10th. So, I am giving you an additional Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5 days, okay? So the due dates for your final projects, look in the syllabus, while they are due March 3rd, I'm actually going to give you until 5 days after, which would be March 8th, okay? So if you need the time, take it. If you don't, don't, okay? But I'm going to extend and open the deadlines a little bit to give you some additional time, okay? So if you need the extra time to get everything done, knowing that you have so much to do, there it is. If you have other questions, feel free to email me, call me. If you're on campus, come by the office. I'd love to chat. But I have seen a difference in how you think today versus where you were when you started 7 weeks ago. Okay, so kudos to you. As you've dug deep and you've not let things hold you back from really discovering and unpacking who you are and perhaps even discovering what your calling is, your vocational calling, your understanding of what that looks like, and how I hope you're able to see you can do whatever you're called to do and to be in really any role that you may have at some point. Okay, so I'll post some more videos next week, but that's all I've got for today. I might actually do another response to some questions this weekend. We'll see how that goes, but I hope you have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and I look forward to receiving more of your assignments and having some additional conversations here in the days and weeks ahead. All right, so have a good weekend, and we will see you online.